A college student from Maryland has struck a nerve with an op-ed piece he wrote for the Baltimore Sun about last week's rioting, titled "Baltimore is Not Your City." In it, he speaks to his fellow suburbanites and in many ways ridicules some of the postings he's seen on social media. How can we possibly claim the troubles in the city as our own? Scott Novak is a student at Rollins College. He grew up in Harford County and joins us to talk more about his thoughts. Scott, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm gathering that what you started to read on Facebook after the rioting and the looting took place kind of struck a nerve with you.
Yeah, so what made me write this piece was all the posts that I saw from many of the people, many of my friends who still live in Harford County, saying that, oh, how can these people be protesting? They're so lazy. How did they get off work? It must be because, they don't have jobs. Just a lot of sentiments of, oh, these people don't have legitimate concerns. They're just lazy people wanting free handouts. And the part why I said that Baltimore is not your city, why I put that in the title, is I don't mean that you can't identify with Baltimore. I myself identify with aspects of Baltimore. But what I'm saying is people like me, people from the suburbs, what we can't identify with is people who live below the poverty line in Baltimore and then criticize and judge them for not working hard enough. So that's what I had a problem with, and that's what inspired me to write this piece.
Yeah, and in many ways, I guess you and some people really go to Baltimore to maybe go out to dinner or go to the Hippodrome, and that's what they know of the city.
Certainly, we know. Yeah, exactly. We know all the best parts of the city. I love going to the Hippodrome, the Baltimore Symphonies. Also, my dad works at the Ravens games. But we don't see the other parts of the city. We come in very quickly to experience the best parts of Baltimore, and then we can leave and not have to experience it at its worst. And that's a privilege, and I think it's a privilege that needs to be recognized.
How is it that you've opened your mind, but so many people that you saw on social media have not? In other words, you are trying to empathize and realize that maybe you're woefully coming short in doing that, and you're trying not to judge in the meantime, but how have others not grasped this the same way you have?
I think part of the reason could be what many of us in the suburbs have grown up with, the idea of the American dream, that if you work hard, then that hard work will be rewarded. So that naturally implies that if you aren't getting economically rewarded, then you must not be working hard, then you must be doing something wrong. And so that type of thinking, which many of us have grown up with, I grew up with it myself, that type of thinking puts blame on the victim of what is really decades of structural inequality. So it allows us to ignore the structures behind this inequality. And I think maybe perhaps the reason why my views differ than many of my friends back at home in the suburbs is because perhaps through college I've actually worked with homeless communities in Orlando through opportunities that my school has had. So I've heard these stories. I've heard how people become homeless, and you can see the structures behind it, that it's not all about personal responsibility like these people in the suburbs claim it might be.
Scott, and now to the reaction to your piece. I saw a lot of people sharing it yesterday.
Yeah, so the reaction has been tremendous. I never imagined I would have such a huge reaction with this piece. Overall, the emails that I've received from readers have been overwhelmingly positive. I've heard a lot of responses from people actually living in Baltimore saying, thank you for articulating what I've been thinking but haven't been comfortable to express, because expressing opinions like this can sometimes lead us into uncomfortable conversations, but I think those conversations are needed. Of course, there are others who've kind of mistaken the main message of my piece, saying, oh, Baltimore is my hometown. I used to live there and I still identify with it. And I say, that's great. I mean, it's great to still identify with Baltimore. Just don't use that identification with Baltimore to unjustly judge other people when you don't know about those people's lives. You don't know what they're experiencing. So
Baltimore is not your city. Scott Novak, I think you have a bright future ahead of you. Thank you so much for joining us on WBAL.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.